We are in episode number 15 of My Mister, talking about yours and my favorite scenes of this episode of My Mister, breaking them down a little bit, and then we can talk about it in the comments. I'll share my thoughts and what I thought specifically of this episode, of the different scenes in it. And news is the following. We're going to be making 2 videos, all right? Because there's also a structural reason for that, but also it's just like, this is the favorite episode for me. I could watch this for the rest of my life. If I was only allowed one drama episode for the rest of my life, it would be this one. I could watch this every day 5 times. No problem. It just gives me so much. And it's going to be really hard to get through this without, getting very emotional. So another reason for the 2 videos is the following. And I feel that there's 2 distinct parts in this episode. There is the first part when Dong Hoon is trying to find her. And she basically runs away, fearing the worst, fearing even like she can't face him. Basically, she's so ashamed and guilty. And then there's a moment when he finally tracks her down. And, the resolution comes on. The biggest climax of the show is when they meet, finally get to resolve everything and are facing the truth, and everything comes out. And that's the beginning of the positive end to this drama, really, when they get to that point. So I want to take that second part separately. So the scene when they meet finally, and the scene in the hospital that also everybody wanted. So that's when sort of they start to, it's what they call falling action in the dramatic structure. Like the big dramatic climax has passed and there's falling action and leading towards resolution. But before then, let's go for the first part of this drama. And I would love to go through the bits of when he speaks to her for the first time, because that is also really moving. Then when he basically runs towards her and she runs away, and her apologizing in the street, which will definitely make me tear up. And maybe we'll get a little bit of the moment in as well where Yunui suggests that they can't let her be on the run and that they just be completely honest, which is also beautifully constructed, that it's her doing that, not him, because it gives her a chance to have a positive impact on the action and help. So it's great that, she redeems herself in the drama all the way, although I've never really seen her as the villain in this, to be quite honest, but that's another story. So let's get into the first part, which is when he's just had this fight with the CEO and basically he's come back to this highly dramatic movie that he's been sitting in, and we heard all that crying, and now it's quietened down and he's picking up the phone and he's thinking about some of the things that he shares with Lee Jian before he calls her. So let's have a look at it. And it's great. We hear his breathing now. We also hear nothing else anymore. So the film has sort of subsided into the background, which is just, sound design is always so interesting. So we're now in his head.
파이팅! 내가 대신 죽여줄까요?
He's thinking back to all the things that he remembers about her.
아무도 모르면 돼. 그럼 아무 일도 아니야.
그러면 누가 알 때까지 무서울 텐데.
이지연.
In that first moment when he speaks to her directly, I mean, when I watched it the first time, I was like, and his breathing again, they just made the sound really beautiful. I know I'm trying to just dissect it a little bit, but to be honest, I just want to watch it again.
이지연. 전화 줘.
The reaction there, the water's still boiling and she doesn't switch it off. It's just like it's one of those basic things you do to show how much the character is in the middle of something, but her reaction is always so on point. You can literally everything, you can see everything.
다 들었어. 너 내 얘기 다 듣고 있는 거 알아?
And this moment, right? I mean, he says that just in a way that he can be misunderstood to sound a touch angry there. But he says that also, I can understand why he says it in the way that he does, with emotion, you know, with something going on underneath. But obviously now that she throws off her headphones in shock, it's obvious how tragically she won't hear the next bit.
괜찮아. 전화 줘.
And all of us now, we're sitting here, no! Listen to the next bit! But sadly, no. So this is what the next section is based on. Really now, we just or desperately want her to somehow be found by him as quickly as possible. But it is realistically done. It is believable, isn't it? Because there's so many dramas, K-dramas, I've noticed as well sometimes, because they have to put so many obstacles in the ways of the characters to find each other. Sometimes they're just so ridiculous. This, however, is really totally well balanced and it makes perfect sense. And she goes to call her friend, obviously, and finds out, and it makes her think that she has to be on the run from Dong Hoon because he knows now, and she feels he's super angry, and he will try to find her and shout at her, and I think that's almost worse for her. I think at this point that he would shout or that he would have contempt for her. Now, of course, then she switches back on again, and she starts to hear again what he's doing, and she obviously tragically misunderstands that, you know, he's trying to find her to stop her from running away, to help her. She thinks he's trying to find her to I don't know, shout at her, and you know. It's so sad. So let's watch this bit.
아, 예, 수고하십니다. 공중전화 위치 좀 알려고 하는데요. 아, 예, 번호가요. 02-750-3199요.
사당동이요? 빨리 좀 부탁드립니다.
Obviously, we understand why he wants to get there quickly. It's just so, yeah, heartbreaking that she misunderstands this. I just remember finding this so tragic, because especially first time I saw this, you know, this is like the classic when the audience wants the characters to get together, but there are obstacles within them, and this is so on that next level for this, I have to say. So yeah, just, and again, now we're running again. Oh, he's driving then, riding. And my favorite song from the drama is playing in the background, as always. In this episode, it seems to be sort of like their theme when they are running towards each other. So and now, of course, he turns up, and yeah, it's just her running away like that while he's trying to find her to help her. It's just, yeah, this is why this episode, it puts me through it every time. I don't know how I can be moved by this every time, but I can. The fact of physical movement, of running, it just doesn't need any further explanation, isn't it? That's why it's such a well-used, almost a cliche, isn't it? In K-drama specifically, and also in this drama, it is a really significant thing. But if I was shooting a drama and I wanted to clearly show a character's state of mind, the fact that they need to run somewhere to find somebody as quickly as possible obviously shows how important that other person is to them. So it's simple, but it just works, and it's so moving. Yeah, I think why this is so moving is because in this episode, everybody wants to save everybody else. It's like Dong-hun is trying to save Lee Jian. His wife is trying to save her as well, and Dong-hun to feel that he can live with himself after this. She's trying to save him Lee Jian's trying to save him by running away and sacrificing herself for his secret. Kwang Yi is trying to save them or her because he realizes that, well, it actually comes a little bit later in the next episode, but basically everybody is doing their best to help everybody else. And obviously the old man, as we realize later, is doing his best to save Jian as well. So that's why this episode's so moving, isn't it?
다 들었어.
Here they basically use the voiceover perfectly, the flashback of his voice, which is also perfectly suited. She goes into slow motion. She's in the middle of the frame. It's just... okay, here we go.
다 들었어. 잘못했습니다. 잘못했습니다. 몇 번 말해요.
And she remembers how he said, say sorry 10 times to his colleague or his subordinate. And yeah. Oh dear, how's this going to go?
잘못했습니다. 잘못했습니다. 10번 말해요.
And we are at one of the most moving moments of this drama. And at this point, it just feels like the guilt is just so strong for her, which it has been already, but this is where we can really fully see it.
잘못했습니다. 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 잘못했습니다.
we have complete silence there. We are now hearing all the surrounding noises again, and we just got the other music coming in. And we see this person walking past, which is so important. Like, she looks there so alone again. She looks like somebody who is just all alone in the world. Also brings out this moment when somebody's having a moment in public and everybody walks past and looks, and there's this moment when naturally you want to check what's happening or if they're okay, but then sometimes you don't, because it just takes an extra moment to really make that step. Okay. Love how the music links this together as well. How he has now run out of steam, because, I mean, how would he find somebody just because he knows the telephone box, you know, was she meant to be living in it? But yeah, just so moving. And now, of course, we can quickly do this, I think. Dong-hun, of course, then ends up, as usual, first trying to not to share what's going on, but then he just goes, and this is what I love about this scene. He just goes to his wife and he just asks her, do you know Lee Jian? And he doesn't know she knows her. Like, literally, it's very uncomfortable for him to have this conversation, but he just can't pretend anymore. He can't lie. He just wants to get things out in the open. And I love how her role is written here, because she is really the driving force in some ways of them doing their best to help her. Which, after everything that's happened between her and him, and her, is great. But it also shows that, you know, there are no obvious, you know, villains in this drama. Apart from that girl in the office, and apart from the guy that always sneaks up after the CEO, obviously. Even the CEO is not completely, I mean, okay, I'm being very empathetic here, but okay. Let's have a look at this.
괜찮아. 편하게 얘기해도 돼. 난 언제든 당신이 원하는 대로 할 거야.
I have to say, despite everything, it still annoys me how he doesn't speak at home. I mean, how many times she has to ask him and say, please tell me.
이제야 알아?
She's such a great actress, Lee Jian, because, I mean, yeah, her face is so fluid, so vulnerable. You know, her reactions are always, I mean, she's just, you can feel her very well.
어느 날 준영이한테서 이력서 한 장이 왔어. 알아봐 달라고. 나중에 알았어. 걔가 무슨 일 하고 있는지.
What's amazing is this is so painful for both of them to talk about this, for him to hear this, for her to say these things, but they're both doing it anyway, which is another really moving thing about this drama. They could just pretend that, you know, it's not happening or something, or just soldier on by themselves, but they have found a way to each other in a way that taking responsibility for what's been going on so that Jihan doesn't suffer.
준영이가 어떤 인간인지 나한테 알려주는 가 걔야. 걔 나 다시 당신한테 돌려보내려고 했어.
I love that she's also defending Jian in a way here, because she's understood that she's been on Dong-hun's side, and, you know, despite everything that Jian has done, they're both good enough people to try to look after her.
직감으로 알았어. 당신 좋아하고 있다는 거.
And the fact that she understands that Jian has feelings for him and that she appreciates that is also really moving in a way, because she's his wife, and despite everything else that's been happening, there's still other aspects to this, so not everybody would take it like this.
준영이랑 끝내고 걔한테 회사 그만두라고 했어. 내 치부 다 알면서 당신 옆에 있는 거 불안하고 싫어서.
And here she's really, really, really honest and says exactly what she thought, even though she was thinking selfish things there, and it was about her basically, so she wanted to.
준영이가 주기로 한 돈 내가 주겠다고. 걔 거절했어. 자기 나가면 준영이가 다른 사람 시켜서 당신 자를 거라고.
This must be so painful for her to talk about these things, and it kind of moves me a lot actually, because it also means that she was having an affair with a complete bastard, which is difficult to admit. So it's difficult for her to, in a way, she's defending Jian to him and explaining how Jian has been on his side all the time. And it just makes her feel even worse about herself.
걔 온몸으로 당신 맡고 있었어. 난 그게 더 죽고 싶게 괴로웠고.
So she's super honest. At the same time, she's really describing Jian in a way that is really positive, because maybe she's not sure why he is asking about her yet.
그만뒀다는 여직원 걔지? 준영이가 자른 거야?
도망다니고 있어. 박상무 일 때문에 경찰에 쫓기고 있어.
You know, this is actually moving me more now talking about it, because it is so full of depth.
준영이 찾아갔었대. 죽어도 안 잡히겠다고. 끝까지 도망다닐 거라고. 잡히면 당신하고 준영이 일 다 말해야 되니까.
And this must be so painful for both of them to talk about, and now for her, obviously, because this is all her fault. But I love how she reacts to this and how her character is written as well to initiate this. Because imagine if she hadn't, I think it would make her a sort of not the character that in a way finds her better self. This whole drama, everybody, almost literally all the main characters find a resolution within themselves to become happier. And this is her way of making herself feel slightly more pride in herself by at least being able to do the right thing here and help Jian and help him and just take all the blame and shame and coming clean about this.
걔가 알아. 내가 제일 힘들어하는 게 뭔지.
말하자 여보. 그냥 다 말하자.
Yeah, and this is a really great a moment in this scene for me. I think, yeah, it's just in the drama itself. When I watched it the first few times, even now, this always moves me again. It's like it's the obvious thing that needs to happen, and it's great that she says it.
계속 도망다니게 할 순 없잖아. 다 말하자, 여보. 미안해. 이렇게 만들어서 정말 미안해.
I think even Dong-hun is holding back tears there. And yeah, but I love this scene actually. The more I watch it, the more I realize how moving it is, because they both take responsibility. And he's facing his biggest fears, which is actually going to help him going forward, of course. But he's now deciding to stop keeping this a secret, and she basically initiated that and convinced him. So I love this in this drama.
이지한 씨, 강윤이에요.
And now she's calling or speaking to Jian and hoping for that. Obviously, we know what happens. It still takes a while, and she's not listening anymore. And so tragically, they don't find each other for quite a while until the thing happens that we are going to be discussing in part 2 of this video. If it's out, it will be appearing here, I believe, at the end of the video. But if not, then you just have to wait for a few days. Okay, so that was the first part of episode 15, my breakdown of my favorite scenes. What do you think? I was really trying hard to keep it together here. Oh my God. However, I just, can't get through this episode without, starting to cry or whatever and getting emotional. I can't wait to talk about this in the comments, to hear your thoughts on these scenes. I definitely think this is dramatic climax coming up in the next part of episode 15, which we'll talk about in the next video. So if you're watching this later, the video will be here and now, and otherwise just wait a few days and I will bring it out very, very soon. Thanks for watching. I'll see you in the next one.